From an underground city in a cave to strange underwater objects sticking out of the ocean floor. And from ancient weapons of power used by the gods to ancient ruins built by old civilizations. There are a lot of amazing discoveries archaeologists are yet to explain. Archaeologists are experts in a wide range of things, and typically, they seem to have an answer to everything. However, even some things are still mysterious, but this is good. Imagine we lived in a world where every day was pretty much the same. It would be boring. Mysteries keep things exciting, and our video today has a lot of interesting places and objects. Today, we take a look at 9 that archaeologists still can't explain. And before we get into it, be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. With that said, let's get into it. Number 9. The El-Tenin Antenna. In 1964, an American Antarctic research ship called the USNS El-Tenin photographed something strange while sailing west of Cape Horn in southern Chile. All these years later, we're still not sure what's in the picture. The unexplained object has become known as the El-Tenin Antenna. Based on approximate measurements, it sticks out from the bottom of the sea at a depth of just under 13,000 feet. It received little notice. The article in the New Zealand Herald described it as a puzzle from the seabed at first. 4 years later, a story in Saga magazine termed it an extraordinary piece of equipment, giving rise to the thought that it may have an artificial origin. In 2003, underwater researcher Tom DeMary claimed to have identified the object as a carnivorous sponge of the Clatarrhiza concrescens, but his finding is impossible to verify nearly 60 years later. The mystery persists. It's most likely not the alien artifact some conspiracy theorists claim it is, but the sponge explanation doesn't satisfy us either. What do you think it is? Number 8. American Vikings. We don't want to break anyone's illusions about the past, but Christopher Columbus was not the first European to land on the Americas. The Vikings had beaten him by hundreds of years, as evidenced by the existence of the Viking village in Newfoundland, Canada. Did they travel south into the United States after their arrival? Well, if the Kensington runestone is genuine, it appears that they did. The contentious artifact was discovered by Olaf Olsen Oman, a man with a very appropriate name for making Viking discoveries. While clearing trees on his land in Alexandria, Minnesota in 1898, he immediately noticed that a 200-pound block of sandstone was covered in mysterious symbols, so he requested the help of experts. While many Orthodox historians reject it as a hoax produced by Oman, they instantly recognize the markings as Viking runes. They translated them into the account of Viking scouts landing in the region in 1362. The people of Alexandria have accepted its authenticity as fact, and a giant replica of the original slab stands in the middle of their city. What a beautiful find for Olaf! Number 7. The most powerful weapon in the universe. Although the faiths of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism differ, they share several essential beliefs. One of such is that the Vajra is the god's preferred weapon. There are references to Vajra. There are 2 ways we can understand the word Vajra, both of which come from Sanskrit. The first is as lightning, and the second as diamond. In both cases, the word represents a weapon, as an irresistible force of the gods. According to the legend, Vishnu warned Indra that a weapon crafted from the bones of the Hindu sage Darichi would be capable of slaying the snake demon Vritra. The weapon in issue was crafted by the celestial craftsman Vashtar and was a success. According to Indian legends, the Vajra is the most powerful weapon in the universe. This is a strong claim for a weapon that is just a club with a ribbed head, yet plenty of individuals believe in it. So, what do you think is the most powerful weapon in the universe? Number 6. Bronze Dead Sea Scroll. According to legend, the cryptic copper scroll includes a roadmap that might lead us to more than $3 trillion in wealth. It's simply a shame that no one has ever been able to fully comprehend it. This scroll is one of many that make up the Dead Sea Scrolls, but is unique in that the others are written on papyrus, and in contrast, the copper scroll, which is broken into 2 pieces, was written on hammered copper and was discovered on a Qumran hillside in 1952. Translating the scroll's text wasn't an issue for the archaeologists who studied it. Instead, it is written in an early form of Hebrew and is effectively a list of locations and treasures. The quantities of gold, silver, and jewels listed on the scroll are enormous. The combined weight of the gold alone would exceed 25 tons. The treasure is said to have been divided between 60 locations. Still, the problem is that the locations are vague, and no treasure has ever been found at any of them. Do you think this is a hoax, or is it worth looking into? Number 5. The ancient underground city of Derinkuyu. We're back in Turkey now for a story that began in the 1960s. When an ordinary citizen was doing some home improvements, he knocked down a wall in his basement and discovered the entrance to an ancient, long-forgotten city, and that city is now known as Derinkuyu. Calling it a city, though, almost doesn't do it justice. This underground settlement is positively enormous. At some point in the past, the ancient residents of Turkey carved an 18-story network of caverns and tunnels right into the volcanic rock to a depth of 250 feet. Nobody knows who built it, when they built it, or why. The most popular theory is that it was built by the ancient Phrygians. If so, the structures of Derinkuyu would have to be around 3,000 years old. Although it was forgotten by the modern era, it appears to have been discovered and subsequently reburied several times, most recently by early Christians who used it to shelter from Roman forces. I can imagine the look on the man's face, finding a city when you were only trying to improve your home. Number 4. Japanese City of Atlantis. The story of Atlantis is a myth, but it could be based on dozens of real-life ancient cities and settlements that vanished beneath the waves in the distant past. One of them is Yonaguni in Japan, home of the Yonaguni Monument. To our eyes, and perhaps yours as well, these structures appear to have been assembled by human hands. Many experts argue that it's impossible, and what we're seeing is nothing more than a natural rock structure beneath the ocean. The controversy over who's right and wrong has raged since divers found Yonaguni in 1987. If it's man-made, it's a colossal one, 100 feet tall and 500 feet wide, with sharp edges and parallel faces, as well as the remains of what appear to be precisely cut steps and what could be a pool next to a triangular-shaped aperture. All of these features suggest intelligent design and human involvement, but which humans and when? Number 3. The ancient ruins of Pumapunku. The sheer presence of Pumapunku in Tiwanaku, Bolivia remains unexplained, and historians have virtually given up attempting to solve the puzzle they represent. Unfortunately, dating stone monuments is tricky, so no one can determine when they were formed with certainty. It's safe to assume that these stone structures were built at least 2,500 years ago. What makes them so unique is how each piece of stone is precision engineered to interlock with the rock next to it, whether the lines are straight or curved. Everything fits together perfectly, even without using mortar or any other building agent. Even now, it's impossible to slide a single sheet of A4 paper between the joints so many years later. There isn't a quarry within 10 miles of this location, so even the question of how the stones got here is unresolved. As if the precision engineering of the rocks wasn't enough, holes have also been drilled into them in perfectly straight lines, all of equal depth with zero sign of deviation. It's almost as if the entire site was designed to be a riddle. Number 2. The LONGYOU Caves of China. Speaking of old masonry achievements with mysterious origins, consider the LONGYOU Caves of China. The LONGYOU Caves cannot be dated, but the most frequent belief is carved during the 2200-year-old Qing dynasty. However, that supposition might very well be incorrect. The writings on the cave walls are of little interest to archaeologists, since they do not relate to any known Chinese language of any era. The enormity of the labor conducted in the formation of these caverns is impossible to grasp. The workmen left tool traces behind, demonstrating that every inch of the tunnels was carved out using hand chisels. Based on estimations, that would have taken 100 people more than 100 years to finish. There couldn't have been more than that many individuals in the caverns at the same time because there wouldn't have been enough room. Making the long journey through the tunnels was definitely a holy undertaking for someone. Yet, there's no evidence of graves. How do you think the LONGYOU Caves were built? Number 1. The CLAVA Cairns. The site of CLAVA Cairns near Inverness, Scotland, features not one, but two ancient graveyards. The virtually prehistoric burial sites overlap, but were established roughly 1,000 years apart. The older of the two burial sites welcomed its first permanent occupant about 4,000 years ago. At the site's core are three huge spherical burial chambers, with passages that function as entrances. A few curb cairns were added during the building of the second burial. The site's origin is unclear, but even a cursory visual study would imply that many of the stones used in its construction were picked for their color and size. The significance of this is unknown. Red stones are used exclusively to the southwest of the central three chambers. In contrast, white stones are used solely in the northeast. The multiple cup and ring marks on some of the stones could tell us more if we could translate or make sense of them, but we can't. Cup and ring marks are often telltale signs of sites associated with picks, but we can't be sure of that in this case. Do you think this specification of this burial ground is a puzzle to a mystery? And if you enjoyed this video, we have another like it right here of the world's most incredible treasures that actually existed. I'm sure you will enjoy watching it as well.